The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumble. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho walked into the enormous room, his black diplomatic uniform standing out against the colorful robes and strange bodies of 47 different alien species. His face showed no emotion as hundreds of alien eyes turned to watch him. The chamber was built to make visitors feel small. The ceiling stretched up so high that clouds formed near the top. Giant statues of the founding species lined the walls, their stone faces looking down with cold judgment. Kim had been in this room many times before, but today felt different. Today the air was thick with anger. Counselor Vexitar of the Zalathi Empire stood up from his crystal chair. His body looked like living glass, and when he moved, light scattered in rainbow patterns across the walls. His voice came through the translation machines as sharp and cutting as broken crystal. "Ambassador Kim," Vexitar said, his words echoing in the vast space. "Your species has gone too far this time. The terraforming project on Kepler 442b has destroyed 3 sacred burial sites of the ancient Mordaki people." Kim's assistant Lee Da-eun stepped forward. She was young but smart, and her eyes never missed anything. She touched a device on her wrist, and holographic images appeared in the air above them. The images showed the planet Kepler 442b, with its new blue oceans and green continents. "Counselor Vexitar," Kim said in his calm voice, "our archaeological team spent 6 months scanning those asteroids. They found no evidence of any burial sites. No bones, no artifacts, no energy signatures that would suggest they were ever used for religious purposes." Dr. Park So-min, the chief human scientist, moved to stand beside Kim. Her gray hair was pulled back in a simple style, and her lab coat was wrinkled from long hours of work. She had been studying alien cultures for 20 years, and she knew their laws better than most aliens did. "The objects you call burial moons are simply asteroids with iron and nickel cores," Dr. Park said. "They have been drifting in space for millions of years. Our deep scans show they have never been touched by intelligent life." The chamber filled with angry voices as different alien species began shouting at once. The hegemony representatives made sounds like breaking metal. The gas cloud beings of the ethereal collective flashed angry colors. The insect-like hive queens clicked their mandibles in rhythm. High Arbiter Kelnox raised one of his 6 massive arms for silence. He was the size of a small building with dark blue skin covered in ancient scars. His species had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. When he spoke, his voice was so deep that humans could feel it in their bones. "This is the 7th time in 2 years that humans have broken the preservation protocols," Kelnox said. "Your species expands too fast. You ask too few questions. You show no respect for the ancient ways that have kept peace in this galaxy for 1,000,000 years." Kim looked around the chamber. He could see the fear hidden behind the anger. Humans had been in space for only 200 years, but they had already spread to 12 star systems. They built cities faster than any other species. They turned dead worlds into gardens in decades instead of centuries. This scared the old alien races. Counselor Threnek of the hegemony stepped forward. His body was covered in metal plates that clicked when he moved. Red lights glowed where his eyes should be. "Your expansion stops now," he said in a voice like grinding gears. "Humanity will be limited to your current 12 systems. All research must be approved by this council. All new settlements must have our permission. Arbiter guards will be placed on all human worlds to make sure you follow our rules." Lee Da-eun whispered something urgent in Kim's ear, but he shook his head slightly. Around the chamber, holographic displays showed human colonies as red dots on star maps. The red color made them look like an infection spreading through space. "You have brought this on yourselves," said Voice of the Deep, the representative of the aquatic tide runners. Water flowed around her transparent body as she spoke. "Young species must learn their place. The galaxy is old and full of dangers you cannot understand. You need guidance." Kim stood quietly for a long moment. The chamber fell silent as everyone waited for his response. This was the moment when humanity would bow down like all the other young races had done before them. This was when they would accept their place at the bottom of the galactic order. Dr. Park So-min touched Kim's arm gently. Her eyes were sad but determined. She had studied the history of first contact between the Council and other species. She knew what happened to races that tried to resist. They were cut off from galactic trade. Their worlds were blockaded. Sometimes they were forced to give up space travel entirely. Lee Da-eun held her breath. She had grown up dreaming of exploring the stars. The thought of being trapped in just 12 systems for the rest of her life made her feel sick. Kim looked up at the massive alien faces staring down at him. Some looked angry. Some looked bored. Some looked hungry like predators watching prey. None of them looked like they saw humans as equals. The Council has made its decision, High Arbiter Kelnock said. Humanity will accept these limits or humanity will face the consequences. There is no third option. Kim nodded slowly as if he was thinking very hard about the choice. The aliens began to relax. They had seen this before. Every young species eventually realized they had no choice but to obey. I understand, Kim said finally. His voice was still calm, but something had changed in his eyes. You want us to stop expanding. You want us to ask permission for everything we do. You want us to accept that we will always be less than you. Exactly, Vextar said with satisfaction. Finally, you understand your place. Kim looked around the chamber one more time. He saw Dr. Park's worried face. He saw Lee Do-eun's clenched fists. He thought about all the humans working on distant worlds, building new cities, making scientific discoveries, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. No, Kim said quietly. The words seemed to echo forever in the huge chamber. Several aliens made sounds of confusion as if they had not heard correctly. I'm sorry, High Arbiter Kelnock said, leaning forward. Could you repeat that? Kim stood straighter and spoke louder. No, we will not accept your limits. We will not ask your permission. We will not bow down to you. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Warning lights began flashing. Security guards moved toward the human delegation. Kim turned to leave, followed by Dr. Park and Lee Do-eun. As they reached the massive doors, he looked back at the chaos behind him. Humanity chooses freedom, he said. We choose to find our own path among the stars. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Inside the chamber, the aliens slowly fell silent as they realized what had just happened. For the first time in a million years, a young species had said no to the Galactic Council. They had no idea what that simple word would cost them all. Captain Choi Min-ho was checking the weekly reports on the bridge of the UES Determination when the priority message arrived. The ship was patrolling the outer edge of the Tau Ceti system, watching for pirates and checking on the mining stations that floated among the asteroids. The communication officer, Lieutenant Bae Soo-jin, looked up from her station with wide eyes. Captain, we're receiving a code black transmission from Earth Command. Maximum encryption. Min-ho felt his stomach drop. Code black meant the worst possible news. War, invasion, or complete disaster. He had been a ship captain for 15 years and had never received a code black message. Put it through to my ready room, he said, and get Commander Yoon up here right away. A few minutes later, Min-ho sat in his small office reading the message that would change everything. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Yoon Ji-woo, sat across from him. She was young but brilliant, and Min-ho trusted her judgment more than anyone else on his ship. Read it out loud, she said quietly. Min-ho cleared his throat. All human ships and stations are ordered to begin immediate evacuation from Council space. Operation Exodus is now in effect. Complete withdrawal of all human assets to begin within 24 hours. This is not a drill. Ji-woo stared at him. They're pulling everyone out? Everything? Every ship, every station, every colony, Min-ho said. Look at this. He turned his screen so she could see the attached files. 47 Council surveillance ships are moving toward human systems. The aliens think we're going to back down and accept their rules. On the bridge, the crew was already busy following the new orders. Lieutenant Bae was sending coded messages to all the mining stations and research outposts in the system. The stations would have to pack up decades of work in just a few days. Back on Earth, Director Kang Hye-jin stood in the main control room of the Global Coordination Center. Hundreds of people worked at stations around her, managing the biggest evacuation in human history. Giant screens showed star maps with thousands of red dots representing human settlements, ships, and stations scattered across Council space. Colony ship Bright Hope reports successful evacuation of New Sol, called out one of the coordinators. 15,000 people and all essential equipment loaded. Mining station Gamma 7 needs more time, said another voice. They have experimental fusion reactors that can't be moved quickly. Hee-jin walked between the stations, checking on progress. She had been planning this evacuation for months, ever since it became clear that the Council would never accept humans as equals. Every human settlement had secret plans for quick departure. Every important piece of technology had backup copies ready to move. "Leave the fusion reactors," she said to the coordinator. "The reactors are 60-year-old technology anyway. Our new designs are much better." At Proxima Station, Dr. Lim Sung-woo supervised the removal of humanity's most secret research projects. The station looked like a small city floating in space, with laboratories and factories connected by long tubes. For 10 years, human scientists had worked here on projects the Council knew nothing about. "The quantum computer cores are loaded," his assistant Shin Yuri reported. "The genetic databases are secure. The AI research is being transferred to the Andromeda ship." Sung-woo nodded as he watched teams of workers carefully packing equipment that represented decades of human scientific progress. "The Council thinks they know what we can do," he said quietly. "They've only seen our basic technology. They have no idea what we've really accomplished." The aliens watched the human evacuation with confusion and growing alarm. At first they thought it was a trick. Humans were known for being clever and stubborn. Surely they would come back begging for mercy after a few weeks in empty space. But the weeks passed and the humans kept leaving. Entire colonies packed up and vanished overnight. Advanced manufacturing centers that had taken years to build were dismantled and shipped away. Research stations that had been making breakthrough discoveries went dark. Trade Minister Golthek of the Xylon Commerce Guild studied the economic reports with growing worry. "The humans provided 30% of our quantum processors," he told his staff. "Their medical nanotechnology was being used by 17 different species. Where is all this production capacity going?" The evacuation was not random. Every piece of equipment, every scientist, every piece of data was being moved according to a careful plan. The destination was a secret that only a few humans knew. Admiral Bei Jinwoo commanded the evacuation fleet from his flagship, the UES New Dawn. The ship was one of the new designs that the Council had never seen. It was twice as fast as anything in Council space and carried weapons that could crack moons. "How many ships have reached the rendezvous point?" he asked his aide, Commander Na Hee-won. 2,347 ships, sir," she replied, "plus 422 stations and mobile habitats. The deep space shipyards report they're ready to begin construction of the new fleet." The rendezvous point was humanity's greatest secret. Hidden in the darkness between galaxies, a rogue planet drifted in the cold void. It was 10 times larger than Earth and rich in every mineral humans needed. Most importantly, it was completely invisible to the Council's detection systems. Chief Engineer Park Hyo-min stood in the main construction bay of Shipyard Alpha. The bay was so large that clouds formed in the upper atmosphere. Thousands of workers swarmed over the hull of a ship that looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. "The fold drive is testing perfectly," she reported to Admiral Bay over the communication link. "We can cross the galaxy in hours instead of months. The Council still thinks faster than light travel is impossible." Dr. Yang Yun-soo worked in her new laboratory deep inside the rogue planet. She was developing technology that would have seemed like magic to the alien species. Computers that thought faster than organic brains. Medical devices that could regrow entire limbs. Weapons that could reshape matter at the atomic level. "The test results are better than we hoped," she told Dr. Lim during their daily report. "We're not just ahead of Council technology. We're ahead by centuries." Back in Council space, the aliens were starting to panic. Human technology had become essential to their civilization. Their computers ran slower without human quantum processors. Their medical treatments were less effective without human nanotechnology. Their ships broke down more often without human engineering support. High Admiral Zephyros looked at the tactical reports with growing alarm. The Void Hunters, pirates from outside the galaxy, had increased their attacks by 300%. The humans' early warning networks were apparently much more extensive than we realized, he told the Emergency Council session. Without their sensor stations, we're blind to threats from deep space. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho sent one final message to the Council before the last human ship left their space. "We came to you seeking partnership," his recorded message said. "We offered our friendship, our knowledge, our help in building a better galaxy. You responded with threats and demands for submission. You treated us like children who needed to be controlled." The message continued as Kim's image looked directly at the camera. "We are not children. We are not your subjects. We choose our own path among the stars. Goodbye." When the message ended, Council space was empty of humans for the first time in 200 years. Every human ship, station, and settlement had vanished into the darkness. The galaxy's youngest spacefaring species had simply walked away from everything they had built. The Council celebrated their victory. They had taught the arrogant humans a lesson about respecting their elders. They had restored the proper order to the galaxy. They had no idea that humanity's real journey was just beginning. 5 years had passed since the last human ship disappeared from Council space. Trade Minister Golthek stared at the economic reports on his desk and felt a growing sense of dread. The numbers told a story that no one in the Council wanted to admit. Production efficiency down 18% across all sectors, his assistant reported. Medical technology advancement has slowed to almost nothing. Quantum computing capacity reduced by 40%. Golthek's crystal body flickered with dark colors as his mood worsened. The Xylon Commerce Guild had been proud when the humans left. They thought they could easily replace human technology with their own innovations. They were wrong. How is this possible? He demanded. Humans were in space for only 200 years. They were practically babies compared to us. His assistant, a young Xylon named Kextai, pulled up holographic displays showing trade routes and production centers. The humans integrated their technology into our systems more deeply than we realized. Their quantum processors weren't just faster than ours. They were designed differently. Our computers can't run the same programs. At the Council Defense Center, High Admiral Zephyros faced an even worse problem. The Void Hunters, savage pirates from the space between galaxies, had become bolder and more dangerous. They struck at merchant ships and mining stations with increasing frequency. Another convoy attacked near the Vega system, reported Commander Kixtal, her insect-like head clicking with worry. All 12 ships destroyed. No survivors. Zephyros studied the attack patterns on his tactical display. The Void Hunters seemed to know exactly where Council ships would be, and when they would be most vulnerable. The human sensor networks, he said slowly. When they left, they took their early warning systems with them. Sir, our own sensors should be able to detect incoming threats, Kixtal said. Our sensors were designed to work with human technology, Zephyros admitted reluctantly. The humans shared their detection algorithms with us, but we never learned how to build the hardware ourselves. We thought they were just being helpful. In the medical centers across Council space, doctors struggled with problems they hadn't faced in decades. Dr. Velnash of the Ethereal Collective floated in her treatment chamber, trying to help a patient whose genetic structure was breaking down. The human nano-repair systems could fix this in hours, she told her assistant. Our traditional methods will take months and the patient might not survive. The nanotechnology humans had shared seemed simple enough. Tiny robots that could repair damage at the cellular level. But when Council scientists tried to build their own versions, the robots either didn't work at all or caused terrible side effects. The humans must have hidden the real specifications from us, Dr. Velnash concluded. What they shared was only the basic shell of the technology. Dr. No Subin was one of only a dozen humans who had remained in Council space as part of the diplomatic closure team. She worked quietly in a small office on the Council homeworld, officially helping with the transition period after humanity's departure. Unofficially, she was watching and reporting everything she saw. Her real job was to observe how the Council dealt with humanity's absence. What she saw both amused and saddened her. The alien species had become dependent on human technology without realizing it. They had taken human innovations and integrated them into their civilization so completely that removing them caused everything to break down. Status report, came the encrypted message from her handler. Subin typed her reply carefully. Council military effectiveness down 30%. Economic productivity falling steadily. Medical treatment capacity severely reduced. They're starting to realize how much they need us, but their pride won't let them admit it. Councillor Vexitar called for another emergency session of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber that had once been filled with confident alien voices now echoed with worry and complaint. We must send fleets to find the humans, Vexitar demanded. They cannot simply vanish from the galaxy. Their technology belongs to the galactic community. High Arbiter Kelnox's massive form shifted uneasily on his platform. We have sent reconnaissance missions to every system the humans once occupied. We have searched beyond the galactic rim. We have detected no trace of them. That's impossible, snapped Councillor Threnek. Ships leave warp signatures. Colonies create heat signatures. Entire populations cannot simply disappear. But disappear they had. Every human world stood empty and cold. Their cities had been carefully dismantled, leaving only empty foundations. Their orbital stations had been removed so completely that not even debris remained. It was as if humanity had never existed. What the Council didn't know was that every day, reports flowed into the hidden human capital far beyond the galactic edge. Admiral Beijin Wu read the intelligence summaries in his command center on the rogue planet that humanity now called New Earth. Council military patrols reduced to 70% of previous levels, reported Intelligence Chief Kim Mi-young. Void Hunter attacks increasing. 3 major trading guilds have requested emergency loans from the Galactic Treasury. And our own progress? Admiral Bay asked. Chief Engineer Park Hyo-min smiled as she delivered her report. The new shipyards are operating at full capacity. We now have over 5,000 ships with full drive technology. Each one could destroy a council fleet without taking damage. Dr. Yang Yun-soo had been even busier. Her research teams had made breakthrough after breakthrough in the isolation of their hidden world. We've solved the unified field theory, she reported with excitement. Matter-energy conversion is now practical. We can literally reshape reality at the quantum level. The most exciting news came from Dr. Lim Seung-woo and his contact team. The Andromeda Collective has agreed to a full alliance, he announced. They're sending a diplomatic mission to meet with our leadership. The Andromeda Collective was a group of advanced species from the neighboring galaxy. They had been watching the Milky Way for thousands of years, but they had never made contact because they found the Council's rigid hierarchy distasteful. Humanity's independent spirit intrigued them. They have technologies that make even our advances look primitive, Dr. Lim continued, but they're willing to share knowledge with us because we proved we value freedom over security. The alliance with Andromeda opened up possibilities that no one in the Council could imagine. The collective had ships that could travel between galaxies in days. They had weapons that could restart dead suns. They had solved problems that Council scientists thought were impossible. But perhaps most importantly, they had eliminated the Void Hunters from their own galaxy centuries ago. Captain Song Ji-hoon commanded one of the new human ships that patrolled the space between galaxies. His vessel, the UES Horizon's Edge, was invisible to normal sensors and could phase in and out of normal spacetime. When his crew detected a massive Void Hunter fleet heading toward Council space, he smiled grimly. Time to send a message, he told his crew. Let's show these pirates what happens when they threaten civilized space. The Void Hunter fleet consisted of 100 massive ships, each one capable of destroying a planet. They had been terrorizing the galaxy for millennia, appearing without warning to steal, kill, and destroy. They thought they were the apex predators of the universe. They were wrong. Song's ship appeared directly in the center of their formation, without any warning. The Void Hunters barely had time to react before beams of pure energy reached out from the human ship. One by one, the pirate vessels simply ceased to exist, unmade at the quantum level. In less than 10 minutes, the entire fleet was gone. The only evidence of the battle was a brief transmission that reached Council space 3 days later. This is Captain Song Ji-hoon of the Human Defense Force. The Void Hunter threat to this sector has been eliminated. Any further pirate incursions will be dealt with similarly. That is all. The message sent shockwaves through the Council. Humans had not only survived their exile, but they had become powerful enough to destroy threats that the Council couldn't handle. High Arbiter Kelnox convened yet another emergency session. How is this possible? He demanded. 5 years ago we could have crushed them easily. Now they're eliminating fleets we couldn't even detect. Dr. No Subin watched the chaos in the Council chamber with carefully hidden satisfaction. Her people had done exactly what she knew they would do. When told they couldn't advance, they had found a way to advance faster than anyone thought possible. But the real surprise was still to come. The Council emergency session was already in chaos when the first reports arrived. Emergency Counselor Rectos stood at the center of the chamber, his forearms gesturing wildly as he tried to make sense of the impossible readings on his instruments. Something massive is moving through dark space, he announced to the assembled representatives. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Multiple contacts approaching from the galactic rim. Counselor Vextar's crystal body flashed with nervous light patterns. Could it be the Void Hunters returning with reinforcements? No. Rectos said, his voice filled with confusion. These signatures are completely different. The technology appears to be beyond our understanding. High Admiral Zephyro studied the tactical displays with growing alarm. His best sensors could barely detect the approaching ships, and what they could see made no sense. The vessels seemed to be moving through space-time itself, bending reality around their hulls. How many ships? He asked his sensor operator. We're not sure, sir. The energy distortion makes it impossible to get accurate counts. Could be dozens. Could be thousands. Suddenly, the air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. The assembled aliens backed away in fear as a holographic image began to form. The figure that appeared was tall and confident, wearing a uniform unlike anything the Council had seen before. Captain Song Ji-hoon smiled at the shocked faces around him. His image was crystal clear, transmitted through technologies that made the Council's best communication systems look like primitive radios. Behind him, the bridge of his ship hummed with energies that seemed to bend light itself. "Hello again," he said pleasantly, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "I hope we're not interrupting anything important." High Arbiter Kelnox leaned forward, his massive bulk casting shadows across the floor. "You're human," he said in disbelief. "But that's impossible. We've been monitoring all approaches to Council space. Our sensors show nothing." "Your sensors," Song said with amusement, "are looking for ships that travel through normal space. We've moved beyond such limitations." A second holographic figure appeared beside Song. Dr. An So-young wore a white lab coat covered with instruments that the Council's scientists couldn't identify. Her eyes sparkled with the joy of someone who had spent years solving impossible problems. "We've been quite busy," she said cheerfully. "Faster-than-light communication, unified field theory, matter-energy conversion. Oh, and we've made some very interesting friends." The chamber erupted in angry voices as different species began shouting at once. The idea that the primitive humans had somehow advanced beyond Council technology was impossible to accept. "You were forbidden from advancing beyond approved parameters," High Arbiter Kelnox roared. "You agreed to the restrictions." "We agreed to nothing," Song replied calmly. "We simply left your space. What we did in our own territory was our business." Admiral Kim Tae-min appeared in the holographic display. He was older than the others, with gray hair and the confident bearing of someone who commanded vast fleets. His uniform bore markings that the aliens didn't recognize but somehow understood meant ultimate authority. "You offered us a choice 5 years ago," he said to the stunned Council. "Submit to your rules or leave your space. We chose to leave. Now we offer you a similar choice." Dr. An gestured, and the holographic display expanded to show images that made the aliens gasp in shock. Massive ships that looked like they were built from crystallized starlight. Space stations the size of moons. Weapons that seemed to twist space itself into new shapes. "The void hunters that have been terrorizing your shipping lanes for centuries," she said conversationally. "They're gone. We offered them the same choice we're offering you." Some joined us. The rest chose poorly. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. The void hunters had been the galaxy's most feared pirates for millennia. If the humans could eliminate them casually, what else were they capable of? "This is a trick," Councillor Threnak said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Humans were barely spacefaring when they left. 5 years isn't enough time for this kind of advancement." Song's smile became predatory. 5 years in your space wasn't enough. "But we haven't been in your space, have we? We've been exploring places you've never dreamed of visiting." The holographic display changed again, showing star maps that extended far beyond the Milky Way. The aliens could see clearly marked shipping routes stretching to other galaxies, trade agreements with species they had never heard of, and technologies that redefined what was possible. "May I present our allies?" Admiral Kim said formally. "The Andromeda Collective has been most helpful in our development." A new figure appeared in the hologram. It was clearly not human, but it was also unlike any species the Council had ever seen. The being seemed to be made of living energy, its form shifting and flowing like controlled lightning. "We are pleased to finally make contact with the species of this galaxy," the being said in a voice like music. "The humans have spoken highly of your potential, though they have also mentioned certain cultural limitations." High Arbiter Kelnox felt the foundations of his worldview cracking. The Andromeda Galaxy was a theoretical concept to Council science. The idea that humans had not only reached it but formed alliances there was beyond comprehension. What do you want? Counselor Vextar asked, his crystal form flickering with fear. Want? Song laughed. We want what we've always wanted. To explore, to learn, to build something better than what came before. The difference is that now we have the power to do it. Dr. An brought up more displays showing medical technologies that could extend lifespans by centuries, manufacturing systems that could build entire worlds in decades, and energy sources that could power civilizations for millions of years. We're prepared to share all of this, she said generously. The same way we shared our technology with you before. The difference is the terms of the arrangement. Admiral Kim's expression became serious. Before you demanded that we limit ourselves to serve your vision of galactic order. You wanted us to be junior partners in a system designed to keep us weak. That arrangement is no longer available. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The power dynamic had completely reversed. The humans were no longer asking to join the galactic community. They were offering to let the aliens join theirs. You're talking about conquest, High Admiral Zafiro said quietly. Conquest? Song looked genuinely puzzled. We haven't fired a shot at any council world. We haven't threatened any of your species. We're simply informing you that the galaxy has changed. The old order is ending, Admiral Kim continued. The question is whether you'll be part of what comes next or whether you'll try to cling to a system that no longer works. Dr. An smiled warmly. We've learned so much about cooperation in our time away, about mutual respect, about what's possible when people work together instead of trying to hold each other back. The Andromeda Collective has shown us wonders beyond imagination. The energy being from Andromeda spoke again. Your species have been locked in stagnation for 1,000,000 years. You have confused stability with progress, order with growth. The humans offer something different. Evolution. Captain Song gestured to the viewports around the chamber. Through the transparent walls, the aliens could see shapes moving in the darkness of space. Ships that seemed to be made of solid light. Vessels that phased in and out of visibility. Technologies that looked like captured pieces of stars. This is just the escort fleet, Song said casually. The main force is waiting beyond your sensor range. Not because we expect trouble, but because we've learned to be prepared for any possibility. High Arbiter Kelnox stared at the impossible ships outside. Each one could probably destroy his homeworld without effort. The humans had returned not as supplicants, but as the dominant power in local space. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Admiral Kim's expression softened slightly. Partnership. Real partnership this time. Equality, mutual benefit, shared growth. Help us build a galaxy where every species can reach its full potential. And if we refuse? Counselor Vextar asked. The holographic figures exchanged glances. Captain Song shrugged. Then you refuse. We won't force you to join us, but the galaxy is changing whether you participate or not. The old ways of doing things are ending. Dr. An added gently. We hope you'll choose to be part of something greater. But the choice is yours to make. The silence in the chamber stretched for long minutes. Finally, Emergency Counselor Rectos spoke for them all. We need time to consider your offer. Of course, Admiral Kim said. Take all the time you need. We'll be waiting. The holographic figures faded away, leaving the aliens alone with their shock and their impossible choice. Outside the windows, the human ships continued their silent patrol, patient as only the truly powerful could be patient. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months later, President Han Do-kyung stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly in a chamber that had been completely rebuilt. Gone were the massive statues designed to make visitors feel small. Gone were the elevated platforms that put some species above others. The new hall was circular, with every delegation at the same level, facing each other as equals. Han was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but when she spoke, her voice carried the quiet authority of someone who commanded technologies that could reshape reality itself. Behind her, holographic displays showed the new reality of galactic politics. We tried the old way once, she said to the assembled representatives of 63 species. Hierarchy, submission, artificial limits on growth and discovery. We found it limiting. Fleet Admiral Joe Suho stood beside her, his uniform bearing the insignia of the new Human Defense Force. The HDF was unlike any military organization the galaxy had ever seen. Their ships could travel between galaxies in hours. Their weapons could unmake matter at the quantum level. Their sensors could detect threats from other dimensions. The Void Hunter incursions have ended, Joe reported matter-of-factly. The pirate fleets that terrorized galactic shipping for millennia have been eliminated or absorbed into our alliance structure. Trade routes that were unsafe for centuries are now completely secure. The former council members sat in their new seats and listened to reports that would have seemed like fantasy just months before. The humans had not conquered the galaxy through force. They had simply made the old power structures irrelevant. Dr. Quan Min-ji, the new director of galactic science, presented breakthrough after breakthrough. Life extension treatments that can add centuries to any species' natural lifespan, she announced. Manufacturing systems that can build habitable worlds in decades instead of millennia. Energy sources that never run out. The medical technologies alone had revolutionized life for billions of beings. Species that had been dying from genetic diseases were now healthy. Worlds that had been polluted beyond repair were being restored. The elderly were becoming young again. Chief Diplomat Nam Hee-young outlined the new trade agreements that had brought unprecedented prosperity to every member species. Resource sharing on a galactic scale, she explained. No more wars over mining rights or energy sources. No more artificial scarcity created by territorial disputes. The abundance was staggering. Humans had shared replication technology that could create any material from basic elements. They had provided unlimited clean energy through controlled quantum reactions. They had eliminated poverty across dozens of worlds. Counselor Vextar, his crystal form now glowing with healthier light patterns, spoke for many of the former council members. The benefits are undeniable, he admitted reluctantly. Our people live longer, healthier lives. Our worlds are more prosperous than ever. But the price is equality, President Han said gently. The price is giving up the illusion that some species are naturally superior to others. The price is admitting that cooperation works better than domination. The transformation had not been easy for the older species. Many had built their entire cultures around the idea that age meant wisdom, that being first to achieve space travel gave them the right to rule younger races. Accepting humans as equals, much less as leaders, challenged everything they believed. But the results were impossible to argue with. Crime rates had plummeted as poverty disappeared. War had become pointless when any dispute could be resolved through mediation backed by overwhelming force. Scientific advancement had accelerated beyond anyone's dreams as species shared knowledge freely. Dr. Yang Yun-soo, now the head of the Galactic Research Consortium, had coordinated the greatest collaborative scientific effort in galactic history. We've solved problems that individual species struggled with for millennia, she reported with excitement. When 63 different types of minds work together, there's no limit to what we can achieve. The breakthrough discoveries came almost daily. New forms of matter that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Communication systems that worked faster than light across galactic distances. Terraforming techniques that could make any world suitable for any form of life. But perhaps the most important change was cultural. The old council had been built on fear and competition. The new assembly was built on hope and cooperation. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years now worked together on joint projects. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho, now serving as humanity's prime minister, addressed the question that many aliens still struggled with. You ask how we advanced so quickly, he said to the assembly. The answer is simple. We stopped accepting limitations. The council told us that faster-than-light travel was impossible, he continued. So we found a way to fold space instead of traveling through it. You said matter-energy conversion was too dangerous. We learned to control it safely. You claimed that galactic civilizations couldn't work together. We proved you wrong. The transformation hadn't been without resistance. Several species had initially refused to join the new order, preferring to maintain their independence in isolated systems. The humans had simply left them alone, continuing to offer trade and assistance without conditions. One by one, the holdouts had changed their minds as they saw the benefits their neighbors were enjoying. The last to join had been the proud hegemony, who finally accepted membership when their homeworld was threatened by a stellar collapse that only human technology could prevent. Counselor Thren-ak, his metal plates now polished to a brilliant shine, spoke with genuine gratitude. We would have lost our entire species, he admitted. The humans saved 17 billion hegemony citizens and asked for nothing in return except our friendship. The stellar engineering project had been a demonstration of humanity's true capabilities. They had actually moved the hegemony sun, relocating it to a safer orbit using technologies that the assembled aliens still didn't fully understand. The project had taken 3 days. President Han looked around the chamber at the representatives of species that had once been enemies but were now partners. "This is what we always wanted," she said quietly. "Not to rule over you, but to work with you. Not to replace your cultures, but to help them flourish." The Andromeda representative, now a permanent member of the assembly, added their perspective. "In our galaxy, we learned long ago that diversity creates strength. Every species brings unique insights, unique capabilities. The humans understood this instinctively. Dr. No Subin, who had observed the Council's collapse from within, now served as the director of interspecies relations. Fear made the old system weak, she observed. Every species was so worried about protecting what they had that they couldn't imagine gaining something better. The economic data told the story clearly. Production was up by thousands of % across all sectors. Scientific advancement had accelerated exponentially. Quality of life had improved for every species in the galaxy. The abundance created by cooperation had made the old competition seem pointless. But the greatest change was in the younger generations. Children from dozens of species grew up together on mixed colonies, learning each other's languages and cultures as naturally as their own. They saw differences between species as interesting variations rather than threatening divisions. Fleet Admiral Joe Suho presented the security report that would have shocked the old council. "Galactic crime is down 97%, he announced. "Military conflicts have been eliminated entirely. The greatest threat to galactic peace is now occasional disagreements about resource allocation, which are resolved through arbitration. The human military had become something unprecedented, a force that maintained peace, not through fear, but through the simple knowledge that war no longer made sense. When any dispute could be resolved through mediation, when resources were unlimited, when cooperation provided better results than conflict, violence became obsolete. As the assembly session ended, the representatives dispersed to their homeworlds carrying news of continued prosperity and advancement. The galaxy that had once been divided by fear and competition was now united by hope and shared purpose. President Han remained in the chamber as the others left, looking up at the great window that showed the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, human ships were exploring new galaxies, making contact with new species, spreading the message that cooperation was stronger than domination. Dr. Yang Yun-Su joined her at the window. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked. "Walking away when we did?" Han smiled. "The old council wanted us to accept limits on our growth, our exploration, our dreams. They offered us security in exchange for freedom. We chose freedom and found security anyway. And now? Now we help others make the same choice. We show them that there's always another way, always room to grow, always something better possible." Han gestured to the ships visible outside the window, sleek vessels that carried diplomats and scientists to distant worlds. "We walked away from their galaxy because it was too small for our dreams. Now we're building one that's big enough for everyone's dreams." The galaxy that had once watched humanity leave in shock now watched them lead with hope. The species that had thought themselves the masters of space and time had learned that they were students in a